it's been reported this morning that Nick Robertson hasn't been happy in Toronto. He was sent down, but that's a numbers thing, and they did talk to him before he went down and said, it's not because of your play, but you're the only one who's eligible. Do you think that's a guy that moves, or is that a guy that stays? And do you think the Leafs management cares that he hasn't been happy?
Well, no, I don't think they care that much. I mean, look at this is a brutal business.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but I think that their argument would be play better. Play to a level that we can't take you out of the lineup, or this isn't an option. I don't think it's likely he's moved. I don't get the sense that the market values him enough to justify moving him.
Okay.
And keep in mind, he's going to be cost controlled still these next couple of years when that's going to be useful. And so it's not as though he's untouchable. I should be clear, but I just don't have the sense that there's a team out there that really values him enough to make it worth the Leafs' while to pull the trigger on that.
And if Nick's unhappy, you got to just outline it to him and say, Matthew Nyes is also eligible to be sent down. And the reason he's not is because he can play on the first line. He's proven his spot in the NHL. So if you were that level of player right now, you would also not be sent down, but he's not. And that's the reality of this situation.
And far from the only player this early in his career that has some ups and downs. Like Philip Broberg, the defenseman in Edmonton, who's now in Bakersfield. You think he's happy? Call up his chart. He's played a number of NHL games this year. He's been stuck in Bakersfield.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same kind of story. The Oilers aren't just going to trade him for nothing, because they still think he's a valuable part of the future. I think there's a world Robertson's still part of Leafs' future. I mean, Kadri went up and down a whole bunch early in his career in Toronto.
Willie did too, even though it's different circumstances because they weren't trying to be competitive. But Willie spent a lot of time on the Marlies.
Well, and when your team's as good as the Leafs are with the ambitions they have, I mean, I think the message to Robertson should be stay ready because, first of all, there's going to be injuries.
Sure.
He is the first forward call-up. And I don't even want to, but just pick it. If any one of these top players goes out injured, you don't think he's immediately in the lineup? Not just playing. He might be on the second line. He's one injury away from being on the second line. So I don't think it's a case where they don't like him, but he is not proven himself to be irreplaceable in the lineup yet.
Right.
And so, of course, he's not happy because he's on his, fourth or fifth stint in the AHL.
He also shouldn't be happy. If he was happy with this, that would be a problem.
Well, and he's a proud guy, and he works his ass off, and he's taken strides. I think he's getting closer, but he's not there yet. I mean, you're watching these games. He's not how could they send him down? How can they, I'm not picking on him, but he's not been as productive as he needs to be a full, to be what he's supposed to be in the NHL.
So, with the Leafs heading into the deadline, I think everybody wants to know this, that, because, the Toronto Maple Leafs contingent of fans are obsessed with these things, and they should be. You mentioned something about a forward. I want to start with defense because it looks like they're going to carry 3 goalies right into the playoffs, right? They're going to try because Philadelphia needs a goalie, and they would take Martin Jones in a heartbeat.
Well, and the Leafs can't be confident enough yet.
No.
There is still a scenario where all 3 of those guys play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In one round even.
Yeah.
All right. And after next Friday, the roster limit doesn't matter. It's just a matter of who you can fit under the salary cap.
Exactly. And the Leafs could obviously use the cap space by not having a third goalie. I just don't think they can risk. They know they're probably not getting Jones through waivers. And, Joseph Woll's just coming back. Let's give that a few weeks before we're making any predictions where he's at, how he's going to be. And then Samsonov, full credit to him. The guy's won a whole bunch of games here the last month, but we also remember what happened in some of the previous months. So
yes.
I just feel like the Leafs are like Carolina's been the last number of years, right? Carolina's used Antti Raanta, Freddie Anderson, and Kochetkov in the playoffs. I think the Leafs are in that spot right now with this trio. And so, yes, unless something weird happens, they're going to roll with those 3. I think they're going to get another defenseman who can play on the right side.
Do you think it's going to be a Lyubushkin type deal, or do you think it's going to be the first round picks involved and this is a longer term play? Like a Jake, I don't want to say Jake McCabe is not a first round pick trade, but he did have, 2 extra years on his deal.
I think they're open to both, and probably more likely to be a Lyubushkin type deal.
Okay.
If CJ, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you were to
put me on the spot,
a trade board that's just the Leafs, and I wanted the top 3 on the trade board, what names are going up there?
Zach Bogosian.
Oh, wow. Would he come back?
I'm not sure if he has a say in the matter.
Okay.
Well, I mean, he can get traded here.
Sure.
Old friend, Zach Bogosian. Matt Dumba,
Hmm.
David Savard.
But you'd have to blow the Canadians away, they're saying.
Well, yeah, that's probably your first round pick kind of trade.
Yeah, because he's got a couple more years.
He's got one
Okay.
more year after this one.
And
But
they wanted...
he would fit very well.
yeah.
He
in
would
the
fit,
lineup.
and he's a defensive defenseman. He's not, he doesn't get the same sort of love as Chris Tanev, but if you look at the impacts on the game, it's Chris Tanev-esque. I think
Mhm.
he's very good at eating pucks and giving you secure minutes.
And that was something that Treliving outlined. They wanted with Lyubushkin, they wanted stops, right? They wanted defensive stops.
Well, look at the game is played differently in the playoffs. No one knows this more than the Leafs. Like we have the same discussion every year. Like they roll. I mean, this season's been a little different, although maybe they're going to end up there anyway. But it's like every year they get 115 points, and then the game changes, and it's like, hey, this can be effective when it matters.
And $3.5 million for your probably top pairing right-handed defenseman, like that'd be fantastic for the Leafs.
Right. And I don't know. I gave you those three names. I don't know what the order is. Here's the thing. Brad Treliving, which I think is a positive for his job, is known for calling everyone on everything.
Love that.
So when you're me and you're chasing the crumbs and you hear that, oh, he's had conversations on this player, this player, this player, it doesn't necessarily give you the full roadmap of what's going on. I know that those are three players that they've at least had some discussions on. I think that they could have some time for, depending on what the acquisition cost is and how other things break in the marketplace.
Dumba was a guy they looked at last summer, right? And he decided to take Arizona over Toronto because of some investments he has. Or something
Yeah, I
like
saw
that.
he said that to reporters. I don't know that firsthand. I know the Coyotes were in town last week and he said something to that effect. What I know about him though is initially Arizona was thinking first round pick. Then Tanev gets traded for a second. Now it's like, oh, maybe Dumba might be a third round pick. I mean, you start to get to like, if the cost is not too much, I mean, he's only 29. And if you look at how he's played in the playoffs in the past, I mean, he brings some physicality. I know he was sort of known as more of an offensive guy earlier in his career. It's not really where he's trended out now.
What do you compare him to? Tool, and I know that's an unfair question, but like tools wise, like, because I think a lot of people still see him as the offensive defenseman.
Yeah, but he's trending way more towards being a stopper, but he's not a Tanev or a Savard, who are really just, I mean, it's one dimension. It's a very important dimension, but you don't look at either of those players and care what their point totals are.
No.
Right? They're not playing on your power play ever. They're just there to do the hard things that really matter. I mean, quite honestly, the difference in these games in the playoffs is it can be blocking shots. It can be,
and Savard's good at that,
and punishing guys who go to the net, right? Like Radko Gudas was crazy effective for Florida last year in the playoffs.
And there's no way that the Ducks would move him.
I don't know. I think that they'd be open to almost anything. Actually, what I was told is there was no guarantee. This is like a week ago. They're going to move Lyubushkin, and he gets traded. So I think that they're open to their veterans, but they're not of a mind that they have to sell everything off. So and Gudas is not a pending UFA,
right?
So I'm not certain they would, but at the same time, I don't think he's untouchable.